Hello and welcome to episode 6 of the Prospectus series. This week I'm going to look at specialising, what specialising entails and how you grow in this area. So you've decided you want to specialise. The next question you should ask yourself is, why do you want to specialise? Are you only interested in studying that area or that particular animal? Or are you trying to carve out a niche in the market? Are you trying to understand how you might conserve a particular type of animal like crocodiles after doing an ecology degree and it's really ignited your passion for that one animal or that one plant? And then you should ask yourself, do I really need to specialise to achieve my goal? Do I gain more experience instead from practical work and then develop my own niche? Or what wider understanding do I gain from doing a specialism? Now, if you're going to take this, you might think to yourself, maybe I want to do a PhD, I want to specialise, I want to investigate particular areas of study, I want to ask particular questions and look at specific areas and use your degree and field studies to work to improve that particular area and area of academic understanding. Or you can professionally specialise by working in that area. So if you've started with ecology and then you've worked in the field or a business, and you might be specifically looking at a cause that you've noticed as you've worked in that sector and might develop your skills on top of that, such as education or conservation work. But specifically this week I want you to think about herpetology. Herpetology as a specialism is a branch of zoology. It deals with the study of reptiles, amphibians and animals such as snakes, turtles and iguanas, which fall into those categories. Thinking about their behaviour, their geographic ranges, physiologies, development, genetics, and many more characteristics. So this is a zoologist who specialises in reptiles and amphibians. If this is the case of the role that you want to do, then a degree in zoology with a specialism in herpetology would probably sound great to you. So first of all, what does a herpetologist actually do? So generally they'll study animals in the wild where they determine or assess potential threats from pollution, invasive species, diseases and other factors. They often inventory or estimate animal populations, and they'll be, as they're studying the behaviour, the developments, genetics and distribution of the animals, they get a better understanding of the ecological niches that those animals are in, the ecosystems, the services, supply and challenges that those areas and environments might come across. Now, when you're looking at the effect they have on the sector, they may make recommendations to policymakers on how to protect those particular species. Since many reptiles and amphibians are considered indicated species, their research may be used to evaluate overall changes in the environment and, as a result, steer climate change discussions. Herpetologists may plan and manage disease control and conservation programs. Many also might go on to conduct environmental impact studies or wildlife impact studies for one of the many different governments who have an influence in that area. Now, your niche, you can specialise further, moving from assisting in field work to running it. You can move from zoos to head keepers and possibly to policy makers or even managers of large societies. For herpetology, equatorial countries often pay more for herpetology they will be able to offer you more opportunities. It does not necessarily mean the UK is still not an appropriate area to grow, as a lot of the research studies look at that particular area. Now, if you're studying this as a degree, Bangor University, which is based in Wales, they have a zoology with herpetology route. They are also the Centre for UK Excellence in Herpetology. Now, you can pursue a BSc, so bachelor's degree or master's degree. Their entry requirements are largely the same, but there'll be additional years of study. One additional year of study for the master's, then the BSc. Now in your year one, first year zoo routes, now these are all zoology routes, are completely the same. No difference at all. You might have some slight difference in tutorials in terms of reptile and amphibian leanings. In year two, starts with a bit of a difference. First difference, introduction to herpetology, which starts to look at evolutionary trends, so how those animals have changed and developed, their reproduction, their physiology and the function of their anatomy. their community structure, how their populations interact and behave, the conservation of those animals out in the field, and specifically looking at how venom evolution has happened or has occurred. Plus then the option of 3 additional optional modules, 5 of which are field courses, which you should certainly pursue to give you a more rounded knowledge. These are either in the Americas or Europe, and other modules which link more to conservation practice, such as invertebrates, behavioural ecology, principles of life, or integrated zoology. Now, year 3 gives you more further degree specialism, such as advances in herpetology. So it's going more into detail of what the year 2 modules were focusing on. The major practical aspects of this consist on a mini project on frog acoustic communication. So there's field site visits to look at breeding biology, conservation, and monitoring of those native reptiles and amphibians, working with zoos and other research institutions to give you a more rounded knowledge, and working with reptiles and amphibians to understand that animal intimately. Now, optional modules might be climate-based modules, life in changing climates, wetlands, or further breadth of animal studies, but this, in my opinion, is a bit weak in certain areas as you're studying reptiles, although it's important to know the wider animal environment. You are specialising, you've chosen to do a specialism, so you shouldn't go for wider animal studies if you're focusing on that particular animal. So I wouldn't particularly choose the ornithology, primatology, and human evolutionary biology routes, as they won't probably benefit you as much. What I would say is look at parasites, look at pathogens, understanding how they link with reptiles and amphibians, knowledge of the environment, looking at the survival strategies of the animal, and then think, do you want to know more about the plant, the environment, or expand on the behaviour of those environments and of those animals in that area? Now, if you choose to do the master's route, it's a further research project. You have a research project for your BSc and for your final year, for your master's. Now, this is entirely up to you. You have 2 options. You can do the BSc or the master's. Both will allow you to develop and grow further. The MSc just allows you to specialise in a bit more detail, such as ecology, conservation, or zoo design. However, what I would say to you when you're thinking about doing an MSc or doing a BSc is bear in mind you have your postgraduate loans as well as your undergraduate loans. So what that means is you might decide, I've really enjoyed understanding about a particular type of environment, so I need to do a master's degree in conservation to give me more of a rounded knowledge. If that's something you've decided that you want to do, then you need to leave yourself the option to specialise at a later point. So you've still got your specialism in reptiles, but you're topping that up with an expertise in conservation or ecology or wildlife studies, or maybe you decide, I really want to study marine iguanas, and as a result I need to top it up with marine biology so I understand the marine habitat more. Those are areas where you need to think about more. Now, that's not to say the Masters is not a route that is going to be disadvantageous. It's just entirely up to you. Both will offer you skills, both will offer you disciplines and different opportunities. You've got to decide what works for you. If you are someone who already knows they want to study herpetology and someone who's laser focused on, say, a study of crocodiles as an example, then go potentially for the MSc. But just know, you've got to think about, it's an interest to you, how do you sell your interest to wider recruiters? Where is your job going to be? What type of career do you want to take? How are you going to turn your passion into something that drives you to perform in your career? How are you going to make that transition? That's something that you've got to think about. Now, following on from this, there's going to be a short video by a student who's in their first year at Bangor University, she's studying the MSc route, and she's been kind enough to give a bit of her perspective about the degree and her potential career or career interests that she wants to pursue afterwards. After the following.
Hiya, I'm Sophie McGee and I study zoology with herpetology at Bangor University, and this is my little Brazilian rainbow bell Skittles, who will probably be in and out of the video. So just a quick overview of first year, as it's the only one I've really experienced so far. It combines both aspects from animal management courses and sort of sciencey A-levels, especially biology and chemistry. So there's a few modules on science, as well as there is animal classification and animal handling and lab practicals as well. Having the combination of both science and animal sort of aspects really helps, because obviously it doesn't really put anyone at an advantage. So if you do animal management, you may be a bit worried about the science sort of aspects to it, but then if you do science A-levels, you're probably going to be a bit worried about animal classification and whether you can sort of remember it. This can probably be perceived as quite a challenge for some people, because some people might struggle with the science behind things, but the university offer so much help. The lecturers are honestly there, they love teaching, they want to help you and they want to make you understand. So that's an aspect, if you're worried about, then I wouldn't be too bothered about it. There's so many books that they recommend as well, just to catch you up. I personally struggled with was presentations. I was really anxious. Literally, like, I couldn't do presentations at all, but my tutor was so understanding. He basically let me do it on one-to-one without anyone in the room, just so I could obviously be graded correctly. A skill you learn from college that will be extremely beneficial will be how you write up essays. It will need to be improved upon when you come up to university, but that's absolutely natural, and they teach you how to do that as well. But knowing how to write an essay and how to structure it properly really does give you that sort of head start in the first semester. One aspect I really enjoyed about university was the lab practicals. They're really diverse, I'll say. You do some on plants, some on animals, and you obviously have to write up and do all the other fun bits afterwards. But learning the skills and learning how to use equipment correctly in the lab, I personally thought was quite interesting. Many other people didn't really like it. It wasn't really what they wanted to do. But being in the lab and getting results and then analysing data was just quite fun for me. But that does bring me to another challenge. Many people kind of neglect the fact that coding and stats are in zoology degrees. So they can be quite challenging, especially if you're not very like maths. If you're not a maths person, or a computer person at that, because some of the technology is a bit whoa. But it can be a challenge, but as I said, they've got support there, they're willing to help you if you are struggling. What I hopefully intend to do after my master's degree would be to go into crocodilians, because there's only an extent we understand the clade of organisms. We don't fully understand the ecology, the biology of them, or even their reproductive behaviours. Like, we know a lot, but not enough, especially for conservation efforts and the risk, like the sort of threats they're all witnessing right now, especially Tomistomers, gharials. There's conservation efforts there are people passionate about them and there are people willing to help, but there isn't enough understanding to fully say this works. Conservation for these sort of animals is a bit of trial and error at the minute, and observational work especially. So loads of natives that are passionate observe how they reproduce, when they reproduce, and sort of see the local area and see if there's any like sort of human activities going on that can potentially kind of destroy them, and if so, if it's affecting them, and if it's not. So there's a lot of things to consider when it comes to like the conservation of crocodilians.
On clip, then the next video that will be coming up hopefully on Friday, I'll be going through looking more at a further specialism. So if, for example, you are deciding you want to look at bioveterinary science, because that might be something that's come up to you in terms of, do I go with veterinary nursing or do I go with bioveterinary? I'll explain bioveterinary science on Friday. Okay, thank you very much.